Hey, 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 thanks for being in the REC experience. I'm your host, Jazz Takhar, with your girl, Laura Alto Stewart. What up, Laura?
Hey, Jazzy, how's it going?
I'm good. You seem all tan. You must have been out in the sun this past weekend.
Yes, I actually took 2 days off from the office, give myself a nice long Canada Day weekend, and was up at the cottage sweating because it was really, really hot without some air conditioning, but it was a lot of fun. Spent a lot of time in the lake and throwing sticks for my dog and all the good stuff.
I'm sure you and hubby and Rudy got a lot of chill time, relaxed time, had a couple of brewskis, some cold ones on Canada Day.
One or two, you could say.
Sure.
I actually spent some of my time painting, which I'm not a painter, and
What do we got?
I wasn't painting like out of my mind. I got like a paint by numbers kit, which is like you might remember when you were a kid, like the coloring by numbers, all the ones are blue, whatever. I got paint by numbers kit, and these things are freaking hard. Like the detail and the amount of colors you have to use and how long it takes you. I probably spent in total 12 hours painting this weekend, which is a lot, you'd think. And I barely scratched the surface. So everyone kept writing me on Instagram saying like, oh, I can't wait to see the final product. And I was almost laughing because I won't have anything done for people for like a year.
Where did you order this from? Like, was this like an Amazon thing that you picked up during pandemic quarantine time?
Yeah, this was like, so in the first 3 weeks of lockdown, I was doing puzzles, and then I finished all of the puzzles that I had at home, and I was like, what could be my next thing that I'll do in my spare time? I guess I thought I'd have a lot of spare time. We ended up doing quite a bit of work, so I didn't have a ton of spare time, but just like, instead of watching TV at night, like something that's nice and relaxing. And I heard that coloring and doing art things can help you be more present. And I don't know if you remember, I did that course, The Science of Happiness, or The Science of Well-Being. And one of the things was that happy people tend to be very present people. They don't worry as much about the future or the past, and they can really be involved and totally committed to a task at hand. So then I thought that's going to be a great way we'll all start to practice. Well, little did I know that what I ordered came all the way from China, of all places. So it took 10 weeks to get here, and I probably had to sit at the facility for, like 14 days in quarantine. And then, so finally I got it. I got it this weekend, and it's a lot of fun. And I must say it was very relaxing, and it does kind of force you to thoughts come and go, but really you have to be so focused on the task at hand because everything is so meticulous and little tiny dots that you're drawing with the paint. So anyways, we'll see how that turns out. Maybe I'll bring it into the office to show everyone when it's finally done.
Well, that would just be odd if you didn't now show the podcast viewers and all the listeners. Make sure you follow Laura Stewart TO on Instagram, because she'll put it up in her stories or somewhere in her feed, and then she'll write
along for the ride.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll write a long caption and everything that you do when it comes to your blogs. When can we expect a new blog coming up?
See, Jazz, you're good because you put me on the spot, but you make me do it.
Don't know what you're talking about. Don't know what you're talking about.
I started writing a couple of weeks ago. During lockdown, I actually came out with one every month, which a lot of people might think a blog a month, that's nothing. But I'm also writing a book for somebody, and that takes up a lot of my time. And then once I'm done that, writing is it's exhausting work. People who are full-time authors, you always hear of like writer's block and things like that. So for me, it's always nice to sort of switch back and forth. There are some weeks.
Is that what helps you also, like, kind of go back and forth from the blog and then ghostwriting my book, and then obviously you write some of the content on the newsletter as well? Like, is it because you're going from topic to topic, they're a little different, kind of keeps you fresh, for a lack of a better word?
Yeah, I think so. I also am taking the course by Mark Victor Hansen, You Have a Book in You. I'm almost done. I think I have three classes left. And he talks about to get over writer's block is just to keep writing. And so a lot of the really good writers will have multiple projects on the go, because there are days where I don't feel like writing about myself. And it might be for weeks at a time, especially if I've done a blog that was very insightful, or it had to do with something that was emotionally impactful to me. I mean, by the time I'm done that, it's like, oh God, I don't want to talk or think about myself for like the next 6 weeks, right? So you want to kind of do something else in the meantime. So to me, it's good having multiple things that I'm doing all the time. But at the same time, it does then mean that sometimes I let the blog kind of fall by the wayside, which I know Jazz I'm not being consistent here.
No. Look. I mean, you definitely taken on a lot, and I actually like Mark Victor Hansen's advice there for writers. Just keep writing. Like in any sport, you hear it a lot, right? Jordan talked a lot about it. Kobe spoke a lot about it. LeBron speaks about it. Hockey, Crosby, Lemieux, Gretzky, they all speak about it. When they're in a slump, they say that shooters will shoot, right? Keep on shooting. In sales, for all my salespeople that are watching and listening right now, you just keep on making calls. If you're in a slump, the way to get out of it is just keep on calling. Keep calling people, keep connecting with people, and you'll slowly get out of it, because it just becomes a numbers game. It becomes, you might be stuck at a wall, or you might be stuck in a rut, but you actually just keep doing it more. Contrary to what some would say, like get away from it. Now that might work for some people. That might, but I truly believe for myself, if I'm in any type of slump or in a rut, I just keep going, keep doing that same habit.
I think the big part of it is, and I've done this before with the blog, I have like not been consistent, i.e. my goal originally when I started was to do it every other week. And of course, when you first start something, you're super excited about it. That seems great. But then life starts to happen, and things kind of get in the way.
Tuesday happens, right?
Yeah, things happen. But to me, it was never that. Even when things got moved out, it was never a full quit. You know what I mean? It was never like, well, I didn't do it, so I guess I'm not going to do it anymore. I mean, doing something 50% is still 50% better than not doing it at all. And so even if, whatever it is in life, like you might have a bad week in sales and you say, oh, just things aren't connecting. It's okay. Take a day, take a breather, take a second, take a week, whatever it is, but know that you got to get back to it. I think if you just give yourself that permission to take a breather, it allows you to come back with a new sense of vigor.
I agree. And don't beat yourself up. Like, don't beat yourself up so much. Like, oh my God, I didn't get a workout done. I didn't get my phone calls done. I didn't get a deal done. I didn't, whatever it was. Don't beat yourself up. Like, this is a marathon you're running. And so I think it starts with the mindset, right? If you feel like you don't have a lot of time, look, and especially to my people who are 40, 50 years old, you got another 50 years at this. And so when you set yourself up from that perspective, it's like, okay, I wasn't myself today. I didn't get everything I wanted to get done. I wasn't maybe able to articulate things to my team the way that I generally can. That's okay. It's just one day. And go to sleep, and then that the sun's gonna shine again. And so I love what you said there about just being okay with not getting it done 100% of the time, or being okay with just failing. I mean, a lot of us here on the team talk about that. We don't really see like failures, right? It's always a lesson for us. There's something that we could take out of a certain situation there.
And I think sometimes people see failures a little, like they think they failed at something. Sometimes people just give up a little bit too early. Things take time. Nothing's going to happen overnight. I mean, how many times we talk about it in terms of the podcast, in terms of your nightcaps with Jazz or après sessions with Laura, my blog. Like, who would expect that all of a sudden within like 3 months, my blog's going to be some like best-selling novel or something? I mean, people put work into stuff, and it might take 5, 10, 15 years. And then at some point, you're going to gather enough data and from other people and get feedback. And that's going to be what tells you whether or not you failed at something or not. Maybe it's time to move on. Not just like 1, 2, 3 people's opinions, right? You gotta gain all the information and then make a decision, but only after you've put a lot of effort in.
100%. Look, I think at the end of the day, as long as you're passionate about what you're doing, it's going to keep you up late at night. It's going to get you up out of bed real early in the morning. It's why we always talk about trying to do something that you like really, really like, if not love, right? And because you're just going to work that extra hard, it's not going to feel like work. It's going to actually feel like you're living in your hobby. And so you got to continue.
Yeah, in fact, it's going to be the thing that gives you energy that makes you excited, right? Sometimes people go to work to get away from the other stuff in life.
So
Right?
true.
Because they get energy from what they're doing. That's the ideal situation.
So true. I hope this podcast gives a lot of people the energy that they're looking for. This week's episode is me doing a talk to close to 9,000 webinar attendees on the Freedom Summit series. We had other speakers lined up, i.e. Jack Canfield, Les Brown, to name a couple. And so we pulled out my talk on shutting out the noise, shutting out all the external noise that was coming through, trying to get through these ears here during the pandemic. And so it's about a 26-minute talk I did for everybody that was on the Freedom Summit series. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you get a lot of value. Make sure that you look in the description notes right now. Clem, I know my boy Clem, the beautiful Clem Machado himself, will make sure that all the episode descriptions are here, as well as Laura's blog, Instagram profile. Make sure to check out. When are you going to be doing apres again? I know you're thinking about changing up the days and times.
Yes, I actually think I'm going to change it till Thursdays. We're going to give that a try. So I'll do that this week. We're going to be talking about everything I haven't done. Now, see, this is another one of those examples. I haven't done it for 2 weeks, so we're going to be back at it, but still not giving up. So there you go.
Love it. Make sure you go check out Elto. Go give her a follow on her Instagram and then go check her out. Make sure you get the notifications there, because then you'll be notified when she goes live. I go live Monday to Friday every night on Instagram for Nightcap with Jazz. A lot of you viewers and listeners are Nightcappers as well. Thank you for that. And I would really appreciate it. I know we ask for a lot of things sometimes to go to certain social platforms and so on and so forth, but I would really appreciate it if you took less than 7 seconds right now. If you're driving, pull over, or when you stop, go to jazztakhar.ca/real, REEL. That's jazztakhar/real. And sign up for my monthly newsletter, where all the podcast content is, all the blogs, all the animations, so on and so forth.
We got another one coming out next week, I think, right?
We do. It's the 13th.
You want to make sure you're on top of that.
The 13th of every month. I appreciate the shout out and the reminder. As always, guys, make sure to give us some feedback. Let us know what type of topics you would like us to cover, and other guests as well. Laura, thank you for everything you do.
You bet, Jazzy. And to everyone.
Oh, I think Laura just cut off at the end. She was trying to say,
I'm back. I got a phone call. Sorry, guys.
There she is.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Jazz.
guys.
Everybody else enjoy the show.
Awesome.
REC Experience presents Real Estate, Entrepreneurship, Leadership with your host, Jazz Takhar. The REC Experience podcast is now on air.
All right, we're live. And this man is my brother from another mother. This man is the one, the only, legendary one himself, Jazz Takhar. He is a Toronto native. He lives in the Big Smoke just like me. He's been in real estate for over 25 years. He leads the #1 real estate team of realtors in Canada for Royal LePage, the biggest company in real estate in all of Canada. He's #1. And he has one of the top podcasts in North America, the Rec Experience podcast. He has amazing people on it like Mark Victor Hansen, like Gary V, like Grant Cardone, like Nicky B. And I'm coming back on his show. And he's going to have Mark Von Musser on too. I hope you had a chance to listen to Mark before this. And I'm telling you guys, I want you to shout it out. Give it up, light up the chat for Jazz Takhar.
My man, Nicky Billou, thank you so much. I also wanted to welcome you to my podcast studio. As Nicky mentioned, I've had the opportunity to sit down with guys and gals that are just starting their journey in entrepreneurship, starting their journey in investing in real estate, right to people that run and own organizations up to 10,000 people in their organization and billions of dollars in revenue. And the biggest thing, in fact, I had my team not too long ago transcribe all the podcast episodes, the exactly, 109 episodes, transcribed them, because I wanted to see what was the overwhelming theme in all the interviews that I've done. And I have to say it was one thing. It all came down to taking action, taking that leap of faith. If you don't have the tactics mixed in with the mindset, almost like owning a Ferrari. The Ferrari happens to be my favorite car. It's almost like owning a Ferrari, but not having any gas in it. One without the other just doesn't make sense. If you own a gas station and you don't have any cars to pump gas in, that wouldn't make sense either. So you need to have the mindset and you need to have the tactics. What I'm going to be talking about, guys, girls, everybody who's listening right now, I have no program to sell you right now, okay? And so what I'm really here to do is to bring you value from the perspective of what I have been doing, the results I have been getting in the exact past 90 days during this pandemic. I had my team pull out everything that was done from a day-to-day basis in this last 90 days. And so if you're watching right now, I know you want more, but if you also wanted to take this time to relax and chill back with family and or watch Netflix, there's nothing wrong with that. But I want to specifically speak to the people that want more. I want to tell you that whatever you're looking for, you can get. You know that like attracts like. This is not the first time you heard this. In fact, you've experienced it your whole life. So much so that whatever you're getting right now in your life is the results of the past 30, 60, 90, 3 years of thoughts and feelings you've been having. And so again, what I'm going to be going over today is my past 90 days of results, as well as exactly what I did. But before I had to do that, I want to speak a little bit about what my mindset was. It all came from shutting out the noise and making sure that the 6 inches between these things here was set and was ready to go. The noise comes always comes externally, and it comes internally. And so the first thing that I needed to do was make sure that I was prepped and ready to go. Because see, sitting down and watching the news, as most of you know, that the news's job is to sell papers, or nowadays, I mean, I'm not sure how many people pick up papers in today's day and age, but it is to make sure that you're actually picking up the newspaper or you're clicking on the articles. It's your job. It's my job to decipher. It's our job to decipher what goes on in our brain. And so that's why my topic is shutting out the noise, externally and internally. Well, 3 years ago, there was a very tragic thing that happened in my life, and I was mentored by a mutual friend of myself and Nicky Billou, by a gentleman by the name of Simon Giannini. He was actually the face of the brand, and you see the company logos there, REC, that's our real estate company. He was the face of the brand for over 20 years, and he tragically passed away. And at that time, there was so much noise around me in terms of, because I was being mentored by him for 13 years. I was his right-hand man. We were business partners as well. But after his passing, everyone around me, most people around me anyways, the noise around me was that REC is going to shut down. They have no way to do this. You guys should just close shop right now. But what we focused on, and what I focused on, is what was in my control. But not focus on what was all the noise around me. And so going into the pandemic, I still remember this day, March 15th, the Prime Minister here in Canada came on TV and said, you know what, we are going to be shutting down and locking down the country. And after that day, I did not watch any more news. Why? Because it was all negative. Negative in, negative out. Garbage in, garbage out. And so what I made sure I did was only surround myself with positive people. Because if I wanted to become a better tennis player, it's probably in my benefit to play with someone that's better than I am. They're going to up my game. And if I don't up my game over, some period of time, 3 months or 6 months, that player is not going to want to play with me for too long. And so you almost have no choice. You have to increase your productivity in terms of if you were playing tennis with someone that was better than you. And so what I made sure I did, I surrounded myself around positive people and positive information. I made sure every morning that I got up, I started with gratefulness because there was still so much to be grateful for, even with the fact that people are passing away. And I'm very sensitive to that topic because friends and family members were lost during this time. But I wanted to make sure that I was bringing in more positivities, shutting out that external noise. First thing I chose to do was never to turn on that TV channel and that news, that CNN, whatever it is, BNN and CTV or CBC here in Canada, because all that was happening was people were talking about deaths and cases and what's going on, how many stores are closing, businesses down. In real estate, for me specifically, that first month of the pandemic in the market that I'm in, the customers that I serve, sales volume went down 67% here in the Greater Toronto area. Never in the years that I've been doing this have we ever seen that big of a drop in sales volume, 67%. Okay. And so what we needed to make sure is that we were able to control what was in our control. Okay. And what we started doing is reaching out to our clients. Within the first 2 days, as the lockdown happened, we reached out to all of our clients in the Greater Toronto area just to check in and to see if we could help. Why? Because we wanted to be a voice of positivity and optimism. Was there anything that we could help with, Mr. and Mrs. Client? And I'm not talking from a real estate perspective. In fact, let's shelf that conversation for a bit. Is there anything that we can help with? Like, do you know somebody or do you yourself need help with groceries? Is there anything? And as we started making phone calls, a funny thing started happening. The clients would call us back or text us back or reply back in an email and say, guys, is there anything that you need, Jazz? Is there anything that your team needs from us? And so as we went on throughout the weeks of the pandemic, what I started to do is, again, focus on, and I'm going to dive into the actual tactical stuff that I was able to do during the pandemic, and then I'll speak about the results as well. I love the chat that's coming in. Keep the questions coming in. If you've never been into Jazz's world yet, you see a little link there where you can be part of Jazz's world. I would love for you to come into my world from a digital perspective. I have a monthly newsletter. There's no cost for it. As I mentioned at the start, I do not have a package to sell. I'm not here to talk and sell you on real estate either. It is really to bring you value from the perspective of for you to know that a young kid, an Indian, a kid of immigrants, a father was a taxi driver, mother was a factory worker, and born in Rexdale, which is somewhat of a bad part of North Toronto. I was able to shut out the external noise and also the noise in here, and only control and only actually worry about what was in my control. And so within the last 90 days, I was able to take 206 virtual coffees with my clients. And at this time, now we're shifting into pretty much the second, third week of the lockdown. I started to have coffee conversations virtually, obviously. Okay. And so we were able to do 206 virtual coffees from March 15th to June 15th. I put out 381 outbound Instagram DMs. Now, why would I do that? Because I knew people were sitting home. I knew I had to make sure that I was getting outbound to the marketplace. I was not going to sit back and allow the noise of the 67% down in sales, the fact that all the businesses were closing, the fact that nobody could put a deal together or everybody was scared of asking someone to invest in real estate. I was going to go outbound. I was not going to sit back and watch and wait for my phone to ring. I was not going to sit back and wait for my email inbox to be full. I was going to go outbound and control what I was able to actually control, which is my daily habits. I was featured on 23 podcasts. I was featured on 23 podcasts. You see the slide on the right-hand side here. And Christopher, thanks for bringing this up. I really appreciate it. You can see what I was able to accomplish, but I want to go through all this kind of one by one. And if you have any questions at any time, get into my world, Jazz's world. There's ways to connect with me. Throw me an email, throw me a DM, and I'll make sure that I do my best to get the questions answered. I was able to also publish 6 articles within the last 90 days during the pandemic, which is very important because I'm getting my voice out there. See, digitally, we got to understand that we have to build a reputation. We have to build a reputation in the digital world because that's where everyone's awareness is. So I was able to get 6 articles published right across some major publications and magazines and newspaper articles as well, because I was going to start to make sure that I was the voice of the real estate market in the Greater Toronto area. Because as number one team, and I'll tell you this to impress you guys and girls, this was really, I'm really wanting to impress upon you that I wanted to make sure that I can control the narrative of what was happening in the real estate market. Because yes, sales volumes were down 67%. Sales volume, was down 67%. That didn't mean people's house values were down 67%. In fact, we were seeing a flat line in the last 90 days. The last 30 days, specifically in the Greater Toronto area, we've seen values increase. So all that noise in the first part of the first half of the lockdown in that 90 days was really just that, noise. It was really people's fears. They were scared, I understand that, but it didn't actually play out like that. And I've seen economic downturns before. It doesn't always play out like the experts think that it might. I was also able to publish 18 blogs. I got started on my book just in pre-COVID time, and I actually finished off 2 chapters of my book, and this book will be coming out in about 9 to 10 months. I sat down and had actually time to sit down with my ghostwriter. We would virtually have conversations, and I got starting writing these 2 chapters in my book as well. The book is actually titled Removing Friction, Getting Out of Your Own Way. I think you're seeing a pattern, and I think you'll see a pattern throughout the summit here with all the speakers that have gone before me and the ones that are going to be going after me, is that you need to get out of your own way. Most of the time, it's just yourself, that you're in your own way to get what you're looking for, okay? And so I was able to also put out 2,645 marketing messages, text messages to a text community. I talked about what I was able to do digitally, close to 1,500 social media posts. I put out at least 20 to 25 daily posts on all the platforms, including the podcasts on YouTube and all podcast platforms. We started anew. We actually had time. We were able to sit back. And finally get some events done. And because our business was built on live events, that got canceled. We usually do a lot of wine and cheeses. I know there's some people in the chat here that are talking that they know us from our real estate events, but we had to now shift. We had to pivot. We had to think creatively. What can we do differently? And I love the fact of how many webinars that are being started during this time, because it allows every one of us. There's no excuses anymore. There's no excuses that you couldn't go to a live event. There's tons of webinars on anything that you want to learn about. And so we were able to put together 10 webinars in the past 90 days, which was once a week. We started this new thing called Brunch with REC every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. We brought on a total of 2,700 local people in the Greater Toronto area in a very small kilometer radius, and making sure that we were educating, letting them know every single week what was happening in the Greater Toronto market from a real estate perspective. I was able to finally sit back because I was scheduled to go fly around North America and talk about how I started the podcast, talk about the Greater Toronto real estate market. And because of the pandemic, obviously weren't going to be doing any live events, I started a brand new show on Instagram every weeknight, Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. I go live on Instagram. It's called Nightcap with Jazz. If you ever do have a glass of wine or a beer or a warm glass of milk at night, come join me 9 p.m. Eastern. And I'm bringing on a lot of entrepreneurs and so I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs here. I would love to have you on a Nightcap with Jazz to talk about your process of reopening, as I know right across the world, we're in phase 1 or phase 2 or phase 5, whatever it is. If you're planning and in the process of reopening now, I want to bring you on my Nightcap with Jazz. So make sure you reach out to me. And I think, look, if there's anything that we can do as entrepreneurs right now is help other entrepreneurs. And so again, I want to be the voice. I want to try to bring as much value that I possibly can. So please make sure that you reach out to me and come on Nightcap. It'll be 15, 20 minutes. We'll go live and I want to share your story. It's called Nightcap with Jazz, 9 p.m. On Instagram, 9 p.m. Eastern every single night. We're also able to record 10 new podcast episodes, all of that. And so here's kind of how I want to close off my topic, okay, and my talk today is that if you can sit back and get really, really quiet in here, when you can do that, you can start to understand, you can start to understand that you need patience. You need patience for things to happen because no results, no real results, transactions, deals done. Those are into the lockdown. So from March 15th to April 15th, this many deals were written, this many dollars in revenue were brought in. But I had the patience of putting in the work daily, okay? And I implemented with speed. Remember going back earlier as I started, talking about when I started in the pandemic and what we were doing on a daily basis tactically, it started in the first 2 days of the lockdown. And so we implemented all these things I went through with you, everything you see on the screen right now on very quickly. So you need to implement with speed, but I want you to have patience for the results, because as you have patience for the results, they will come if you put in the work. I'm proud to say from April 15th to June 15th, I've sold a little over $26 million in real estate and counting. As I'm doing this webinar, I hear my team just outside my studio right now on the phones. And so I know what's happening outside. But we were able to do a little over $26 million in real estate sold. And that was all because, and it all started with me shutting out that noise externally. See, I understand sometimes the noise is coming from your mother or coming from your father or coming from your significant other. And sometimes we need to have tough conversations. And if it is your mother or your father, if it's your significant other that you live with, the conversation's obviously going to be a little tougher. But if it's from a friend or a group of friends, I'm not telling you not to spend any time with them, but you might want to consider spending less time with them, because even if you go an hour a day with them on the phone or live, maybe you can go 52 minutes and get back 8 minutes of your life every single day over 7 days. Now we're talking a little close to an hour you just bought back where you can get quiet and bring in some positivity. And there's always time for positivity. Apply net, no extra time. When you're driving, you can listen to a podcast. When you're at home, you can watch a webinar. Okay. And so I want you to, I understand that the noise will come from family members and friends. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, the noise comes a lot from in here, in yourself. And you need to drown that out. And the best way that I have found, and out of experience, I have found the best way to drown out that noise is to drown it out with positivity. I hope I brought you some value on this talk. And please take take a second, go to my site, sign up for my newsletter, and let's stay connected.
Jazz, wow, man, I got a ton out of that. You know, the shutting out the noise. I'm thinking I can take that up to a whole new freaking level. A whole new level. And Jazz, I'm going to put you on the spot. We're going to write a book together, brother. What do you say?
Nicky, you tell me when you want to get started. I'm ready to
Monday. Monday, 500 words a day. I'll do the writing. You give me your ideas. I'll do all the writing because that's what I just did with the book I just finished, man. But let's do it, bro. But I'll tell you what, shutting out the noise, Jazz Takhar, the Rec Experience podcast is rock star. You guys need to subscribe to it. I'm telling you what, my podcast, Jazz's podcast, these are the legendary podcasts of the world. Make sure you jump all over that. Man, I'm so excited that you joined us here today, Jazz. Thank you so much. God bless you, man. And listen, we're going to do more of this together. I think everybody here loved it. The chat, light up the chat if you love jazz. Write down, I love jazz. Hashtag, I love jazz. Write it out. Shout it out. Make it real.
Nicky, I love you. I love what your team has put on. We need, and I truly, truly mean this from the bottom of my heart, my man, what is going on in this world, not only with the pandemic, but the civil unrest that's happening. Yeah. So much happening. And there's things that have got lost during this past 90 days. A huge congratulations. And more importantly, a huge thank you to you and your team, because you guys are doing your part. You guys are doing your part in spreading positivity and spreading optimism. And it's one day at a time, one person at a time. I appreciate all the comments. I can't believe how many are coming in.
I love Jazz's, man.
Wow, that's amazing. It really is. And I had somebody ask about my contact info and stuff. Just go to jazztakhar.ca. It's the easiest way to connect.
Yeah, you guys can get a hold of Jazz. He's easy to connect with. He's not one of these guys who hides behind a million gatekeepers. So it's all good. All right, guys. Beauty, Jazz, we're going to have to say goodbye. All right, guys. Thank you. Bye.
This has been the REC Experience Podcast with Jazz Takhar, an REC Canada production.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching and listening. Please take a second right now to subscribe and follow us on whatever podcast platform you're watching or listening. It means the world to me. Thank you.